Welcome to Trans Fabulous. My name is Sasha Sadek. I'm the co-founder of Trans Sisters United, Trans Pride March Melbourne, that familiar voice at Querying the Air at the 3CR radio station, and also the board member of TransFam to End Violence Against Trans Women. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Aisha, but before I start, I would like to acknowledge that this event and all the work that we undertake as a crew happens on a stolen land. We wish to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation are the traditional custodian of this land that we call Melbourne. We pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We also would like to extend our respect to our trans elders past and present. Aisya Zaharin served as one of the board members of Australia GLBTQIA Multicultural Council, AGMC, while doing her PhD on navigating Asian values and media responsibility at the University of Queensland. Her research includes fields in political science and history, decolonisation to LGBTQIA and Islam, with a focus on improving social inequality, promoting cultural relativism, and social responsibility concept. Being an intersectional feminist allows her to understand the depths of how people's social identities can create overlapping inequalities and discrimination. Aisha shares the voice of those experiencing intersecting discrimination and further integrates these with her lived experience and learning through her academic activist performance. Her recent collaborative publication with Maria Pallotta on reclaiming transgender identity through intersectionality and decoloniality allows her to share her critical auto of herself and reflect intersectionality's commitment of reflexivity, structural critique, and understand and complexity of LGBTQIA+ and her religion. She comes to academic activist realm from her lived experience of being a progressive Muslim, in addition to having faced enduring oppression due to transphobia throughout her early transition in Malaysia. Aisha was awarded as a Trans Activist Advocate of the Year in 2021 by the Queensland Council of LGBTQIA+ Health. Welcome, Aisha. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Sister Sasha.
Welcome to Trans Fabulous.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You're one of our Trans Fabulous. Yeah, I just got to know you just recently this year at the Human Rights Conference at the World Pride in Sydney. I found out that you do a lot of the work, especially with the Muslim community back in Queensland. How did you get into, working with the Muslim community in Queensland?
When I first came to Australia, I did not tell people that I'm a trans. So I was in a stealth mode. I was living a life where people don't know that I'm a trans.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing okay. Nobody discriminated me until in 2019 when I decided to come out because I felt like I couldn't do this anymore. I don't feel like I was lying to myself, but I just felt like there's something that is unsettled within myself. Around the same time, while doing my PhDs, and I've got an invitations to talk about my migrations to Australia and where did it come from. Obviously, I came from Malaysia, a country that prosecutes transgender people. In every state, they have a discrimination law that would put us in jail. When I got that invitation, I decided to talk about my trans identity, being a Muslim, intersectionality. That's the reason why I think it's important to push the boundaries of how a trans Muslim also exists within the community.
Was there any fear of, being sprung in the Muslim community when you weren't out at that time?
I lived in a constant fear to think that society, what happened if they found out. I think that kind of constant fear made me feel like, shit, like I need to get out and overcome this. And the way that for me to overcome this is to come out strong. And I had never looked back ever since. So I started writing an articles. I've been meaning to write this article specifically on my trans identity and Muslim, knowing that in my religion, there's nothing wrong for me to be a trans. My religion does not hate me. It's the society in the religion hate me.
The community.
The community, yeah, correct. When I talk about that, I specifically want to talk about how there's no actually verse in the Quran that actually prosecute my people, my trans Muslim people. And when I found that, it's very liberating. When I started to accept my identity, I felt more powerful. I feel more stronger. I feel that I have the strength of God, and nobody can tell me to stop being a trans and being a Muslim, because I know God.
Yeah.
It's not like that. God does not discriminate my faith.
Yeah.
My God does not discriminate me.
It's exhausting that you sometimes have to hide your gender identity, because I grew up in Singapore and we have to, I think it's part of the culture thing as well. You have to be very passable trans women. If it's not the public that is going to discriminate you, it's your own peers going to discriminate you.
100%.
That's why you have to take hormones at home and you become a woman, and then when you pass, then it's where you can come out from your house.
Yeah.
So I know how exhausting it can be, and then until I move here, I feel like I can be myself. And in relate to being Muslim, I grew up in a Muslim household as well. And then when I transitioned, a lot of people told me that being Muslim, you can't be trans and Muslim.
Yeah.
They said this is wrong, this is sinful. So you have to pick one. It's either you pick your religion or you pick, being who you want to be. So, and I was confused. I was losing faith at the same time too. So I lose faith for a very long time because I really wanted to be a woman, until I mixed around with actually some of the trans women in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And most of them that I know, they do pray. I said, oh, you pray 5 times a day? They said, yeah, why not? I said, oh, I thought, isn't it sinful? Allah would never accept this. And he said, no, it's between you and God. They said no one can tell you what faith you want to believe in. So you grew up as a Muslim. We don't do convert, because we grew up, we were born Muslim. So why would someone take that away from you? From that onwards, I start to believe again in faith and in my religion as a Muslim, and I start to practice again.
When I started my transitions, I was a bit upset. I didn't know what to do, because I knew that, because I've been told, we've been conditioned, our society as a Muslim, that being a trans and being a Muslim is not acceptable. You can't do that. You have to choose. They for them, it's either you pick that one or you pick that one. But I think our religious authority, our people, especially people who think that they control the religion, they are responsible for the problems that we have today. As in, why do we have a system where if you want to be Muslim, you have to be straight? Why? Or if you want to be Muslim, you have to be cisgender. This is one of the things that I talk in my paper about, how being a trans, it can also, it's like you grow up like this. This is the nature, the instincts that we have. Like, I'm a woman, that I know there's nothing, that this is a gift, I would say. God want me to feel that way. And a lot of Muslim things that, because this is like, a trial for you. But isn't it that, if you want to talk about trial, isn't it that for us Muslim, trial, it's always associated with pious people, with the Prophet. Does that mean that trans people are more pious than the rest of it? That's one of the things. And I think that a lot of religious authority today, they're responsible for the fact that our Muslim brothers from the LGBT backgrounds live Islam is because of that. And I think they would have to answer that in the Yawm al-Qiyamah, in the Judgment Day, that why you're not helping these people, and instead of not providing a safe space for us LGBT Muslims.
It's all part of the Judgment Day between you and your God, right? Who are you to tell us that we can't be gay or we can't be trans and be Muslim at the same time? As I grow a bit older, and I grew up actually very religious. My grandparents are super religious. I went to religious school, in the mosque. And then, when I lose faith, I was a bit concerned because I was forgetting some of the surah from the Quran. So and then when I got back my faith, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough because that time there was no iPhone. So, you can't just Google anything so I always call my grandma and ask about the surah. Can you read out for me so I can still
Beautiful.
remember?
Aw.
And then as I grow older, especially when I came here, I start to learn more about Islam. I start to have questions. I think living in Asia, we are mostly our followers, I believe,
True.
because there's questions that I gave to some of my Muslim peers. I said, why we have to do this, and why it's just a question, why? And then the answer is, oh, because we have to, but there's no reason to it. So that's why when I came here, I start to try to educate myself more and to questions, why are we doing this and why is the reason for it.
This is the thing that people don't understand, especially being a Muslim. They think that the religious authority have the ruling or the authority to it in terms of religion, but they forget that the first verse, the first surah that was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad was to read. Al-alaq, ikra, means, read. Read 3 times in that particular, when if you remember that story, the angel Gabriel came, Jibril came to the Prophet and asked the Prophet to read and read in the name of your God. It means, as a Muslim, you have a duty and responsibility to reflect and read, seek knowledge, understand about religion, rather than blindly follow the religion authority without having any guidance whatsoever.
I met a few people who actually studied Islam here. It was more educational for me because I get to ask questions, and they're not even Muslim. So it was a lot easier for me to ask questions with them because they have those knowledge. How did you feel after you came out as a trans woman, and how did the community actually treated you?
When I first came out from a stealth mode, okay, so it's like, so when I came out back home, it was fantastic because it was a gradual process. I had my transitions slowly. My parents they were not accepted at the beginning, but once you cross the hurdles, you become invincible. So my second came out in Australia. So I'm just gonna focus on my second came out from a stealth mode in Australia. At the beginning, because they already, a lot of my Muslim friends, I used to have my housemate, she was Iraqi, also, she was like from a refugee background. What I do not understand is that these people, Muslim, they come to Australia, applying, seeking asylum seekers, and yet they do not want to extend that kind of compassion that the Australian people extend to them, accepting them, being a Muslim, but they refuse to accept sisters, LGBT peoples in Islam. So what I'm saying is that, how is that you are so nonchalantly, happily accepted, that you want people to accept you, but at the same time you cannot extend that kind of acceptance to other people. So I lost my housemate. I lost her. She left me because after she found out my biography through one of the articles and through one of the like biographies that I post, that people share on the social media. And then one day she was like, not only housemate but a friend that we lived together for like 7-8 years. And then she was like, oh, the reason why I stay with you is because this is a women's house. So in Islam, it was just like the moment she knew about my identity, she just completely shut down, disowned me. And I think when it happened to me, I was a bit upset.
Of course.
But like,
no one's like rejection.
Yeah, but I was like, after she left, I just felt like there's such a huge relief. It's like a good riddance that she left my life, and I blocked her on my social medias. And today, I don't want to spend my time with Muslim who would not accept my identity.
So as trans fabulous as you are, in Brisbane, Queensland, what got you into doing activism and advocacy?
I wouldn't be here today if I were not a trans. Being a trans, it allows me to see a lot of injustices that happen in this world. It opens my eyes. When I started my PhD, it started with how I see a lot of journalists in Malaysia that cannot speak freely, they're controlled. And I think being a trans, like I said, I understand the concepts of intersectionality since the early age. I understand that being a trans also, I see a lot of other kinds of, my struggles would be the same with the struggles of, no, it's not entirely the same, but it's the struggles of how indigenous people, people who cannot speak the truth, people who cannot be themselves, people who cannot be out there. So I started to realize that, I have a duty or responsibility to actually break these barriers, to be visible, to be a trans and a Muslim, because I do exist. Gender matters, trans Muslim matters.
Yes.
And I'm here to break the barriers, and I'm here to be fabulous.
Being trans as well, we are already an advocate without knowing we were one, because, we have sisterhood. So, we always helping either trans women who, being disowned by their family, or they just need help, hormones. We always there, open arms and open our doors for them. So it's just that I think coming to Australia, for me anyway, it gives me like a platform, and also, the things that I've been doing, it gives me more, I can do it professionally and help my sisters who actually needs help. So is that same with you as well?
I would say that because, like I said, it all intersected, that I come out as a trans from a stealth mode, that I know that I'm safe in Australia, that I know that I get a lot of support from the community.
The government now in Malaysia, they actually practice conversion therapy now.
Not now, it just has been going on since forever.
Oh, it's just that it got into the media now, is it?
It's not, it's always been there.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's always been there.
Can you explain a little bit more, like how this conversion therapy actually works in Malaysia when you actually get caught being trans?
Okay, so it's like this. I can speak on my on my experience. I started transitions at the university. So, and one day I received a letter by the admins, and said that I had to attend this camp pemantapan gender, or gender to strengthen my gender, being, assigned males at birth. So they put me to go to this sort of like to strengthen or to mend me up. Experience from people is different, but from my experience, it was funny because I saw that as an opportunity for me to share beauty tips with other trans, for example, like what hormones you've been taking and stuff like that. But on the levels of discriminations, they force us to live. They try to use religion to tell us that this is wrong, this is not good. And a lot of trans women in Malaysia, they still have this kind of guilt that they cannot be trans. So some of them would have to detransitions. As you can see, like the examples, how there's another trans sister in Saudi Arabia where she committed suicide after she was forced to detransitions by her family. To them, these people, it's okay to have a dead children than have a trans daughter or have a trans son, because to them it brings shame to the family. It's just appalling.
In Malaysia, if you get caught being trans and then they're gonna send you to the conversion therapy rehab, so what if you have like already like surgeries? Do they like take out all your silicones? Or I know that they cut your hair, but what about surgeries?
Oh no, they wouldn't do that, but they wouldn't do it to the extreme. But if you wanted to do it, they would send you to the government hospitals and let you do it.
And they will pay for you?
Government hospital is free, so that's one of the advantage of Malaysian government. So like
where's the human rights when we need that?
No, it's like, this is a thing in the media. The stories of trans who did transitions always been highlighted, and then they would just want to show you, see, this person hijrah to go back to the fitra, to be themselves again. But they don't understand that behind it, the society forces these people to detransitions because you cannot be trans in Malaysia. when you talk about illegality of being a trans in Malaysia, it just came out in 1992. It was just a recent thing. And where does it come from?
Yeah.
Radicalization. And who's behind it? Who actually put these people in power? British. You cannot just see that as just like one thing and then forget that we have colonialism behind it.
Yes.
And the radicalizations of Islam world today, it comes from colonialism pretty much.
Yeah.
And if you think about how gender variant people, we exist throughout the history since since Islam was established back in the 8th centuries. We follow that. We know that. We read. I mean, seriously, stop erasing us, people. Muslim community, stop erasing us. We exist and we are here to stay and being fabulous.
You know, people always think like being trans is a choice. It's not. We were born trans.
Islam is all about science. You know, Islam is always on the science side. This is the reason why I want to highlight a fatwa that one of the papers that I wrote about authentic fatwa in Egypt and institutions that actually allow trans people to transition because they're born that way. Because for some of us, transgender conditions exist since they were like even in the womb. Read articles about that, read research paper about that. One of the interesting things that I want to highlight about this fatwa is that this mufti, he knew that he did not have any knowledge. And one of the reasons that he came up with the fatwa, he seek help from the medical professional because he believed in Islam. He believed in a prophetic traditions where the Prophet Muhammad says, if you do not have knowledge in certain thing, go and find it through people who have the knowledge. And those people who have the knowledge when it comes to transgender issue is the doctors, it's the psychologists. It's about those people who know better than them. So they don't simply just come out with the fatwa saying that, oh, we need to discriminate you.
You live in Queensland and a lot of your advocacy work also involved here in now Melbourne as well.
Brisbane is a small city. You don't really get to see a lot of things happening there. They are, but I'm also part of the ATSEC, Australian Transgender Queensland community, as a board member. So I attend meeting all the time when I'm in Brisbane. My activism happens and a lot of conferences, for example, are happening in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Canberra, in everywhere else except Brisbane.
I know you're very busy, but I do believe as well you do take care of yourself. Self-care comes first.
You need to take care of your mental health. And for me, taking break from time to time is important for me to be able to help the society. There's a quote saying that you cannot pour from an empty glass. So you have to live yourself.
Can we tell a bit more about what this Queer Iftar is all about?
So basically, these organizations, Rich Meals, in collaborations with Transgender United and AGMC, because I'm part of AGMC, we organize an Iftar. Iftar, it's Ramadan, during Ramadan, to break the fast. And we provide a get-together for the forcibly displaced people from the Muslim background and also LGBT. So we provide a safe space for them to get together, know each other. And as we know that getting together, knowing your own thoughts can also help you to improve your mental health. But by connecting people, we all should be able to get to know and listen to each other's stories and inspire us together.
Most of them are refugees, migrants, asylum seekers who comes here without their family. So it's really nice, and people really so thankful of the work that we're doing for them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, because like I said, someone has to do it. People, we together, we united. Okay, and I believe to me, I wouldn't call myself an activist. I would say that I love doing activism work. And to me, helping people, of course, it gives us such a feelings, but like a good feelings. But I'm just want to say something about privilege that we both have. As a trans, we have a privilege that we can have a privilege to access to education, to transitions, get a scholarship, being able to, converse in English, being able, but not many trans people are out there have the same privilege. My transitions was a bit smooth, but like I said, I only can speak on my behalf of myself, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I also understand the struggle. Like my parents are very accepting.
Yeah.
They're lovely people. This is one of the important things about being LGBT and Muslim.
Yeah.
When you are accepted by your family, nothing can stop you anymore
That's
because,
it.
like I said,
You
this is a
need that
privilege that we have.
validation. Yeah.
Yeah,
With the family.
that kind of validations that we have the statistics that says family acceptance
Yeah.
reduces the probability for trans kids to commit suicide
Correct.
by 89%.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
That's true. I've said this and I'm gonna say it again. If your family doesn't accept you, create a new family. So what's the future of Aisha?
I'm a person that live in the moment. I think activism, it's part of my identity. I cannot, being a trans, you
It's
have
in your
to
blood.
be an activist. And not only that, being a Muslim, you got to remember,
Yeah.
being a Muslim.
Being trans, being Muslim, that's
You think about how in Islam, being a Muslim, the way that I speak out and speak up for other people today,
Yeah.
it's my religion's recommendation, highly recommended by Muslims, that you have to speak up
Yeah.
and speak out on behalf of other people who are marginalized.
100%. This is why we in Australia, we can speak up. We can, do goods for our community compared to being in Malaysia because you can't say nothing. So thank you so much, Aisha, for being here at Trans Fabulous. I hope to see you again and looking forward to work with you in future projects.
Thank you so much for inviting
Thank you
me.
so
I'll
much.
see you next time.
Thank you for watching Trans Fabulous, and I'll see you again on the next episode. My name is Sasha Saidek.